Yeah, but we cannot excuse the man at the center. We can't excuse the people at the center because they have some, in one way or the other, they need to affect the lives of the local people.
Yeah.
And some people believe that sometimes when you're aligned, so to speak, with the center, maybe the easier it is for goodies to come to your state.
No, there are no goodies. There are constitutional provisions concerning how state resources will be distributed in the federation accounts. Okay, so every state has a constitutional allocation. The president can't help that. This is a constitutional responsibility. But you see, once these resources are allocated, the responsibility for using these resources at the state levels to change the material conditions of people at those state levels will no longer lie with General Buhari or Jonathan. It will lie with the state governments.
That's natural.
Yes.
I mean, and that's granted. But
Yes.
if you look at how it's skewed, I mean, when the federal government is getting as huge a percentage as
Yes.
over 50%.
Yes.
It also needs to spend these resources, and it's going to be spending them in states.
Yes.
They believe that for you to be able to get a share of what the federal government has and
Yes.
influence projects down towards your area,
Yes.
you must be aligned somewhat towards the federal.
Actually, you don't have to. The president-elect in his acceptance speech has already said that he is committed to equity. He is committed to good governance. And good governance means fair allocation of resources where whatever the party might be at the state level. And we must take his words for that. But you see, my concern is not even so much the allocation of resources, but actual accountable use of those resources. You see, Akbar, the point you raised, I understand it. But you see, what we found over the years is that the state governors sometimes manage budgets at state levels that are already higher than the budgets of many African states. Okay, so what matters to me it's not so much how much resources that are allocated to them, but how well do they use the resources. I know the example of Rivers State because I am from there. Over the past 8 years, Rivers State has been allocated about 3 trillion naira, one of the richest states in the country. Now, the people in Rivers State cannot possibly be looking on to General Buhari to administer their state for them. They've got to ask questions about whether the allocations that have been made to Rivers State over the past 8 years have been judiciously used, have been accountably used. And so if this has been the trajectory, then you want to reward the government in power to continue the tradition of excellence and all that. But if the reverse is the case, as I suspect it is the case, then you can't possibly be looking at, say, certain domino effect. You'll be looking at the specific local issues and to say, no, we want change. We want a more accountable, more responsible administration in the state.
Now, when you talk about local issues, there must also be some form of empirical evidence that can also help the people.
Yes.
Since you're situated there, you can ask yourself if what you're feeling is right or if what you're seeing is real after all.
Yes.
So how does that help the people in making their choices without reference to any state?
Yes.
Empirical evidences are things that you can see and feel and touch.
Precisely.
And so when someone comes to you with a story contrary to what you're saying already and you can feel, how do you make up your mind to say, yes, this is real and this is unreal for me?
Actually, it's good that you're referring to the doctrine of empiricism in politics. This is important because, you see, it runs directly contrary to the politics of mysticism that our politicians like to put in place. They like to make you believe that this is what the state that we imagine would look like. And so you find that state governors actually show people 3D images of the kind of cities they want to build. And so it's very important that you raise this question of practicality in what the people actually experience. For instance, you find that governors say they will build roads. You see, but as Henry Ford once said, you can't build your reputation on what you want to do. You build your reputation on what you have done. And so what you find is there's a great deal of connection between administration in Nigeria and fiction, in fact. There is a sense in which governors tend to fictionalize government. They tell you they built monorails And what you see are just 3D images of monorails. You don't get the people actually moving from A to B in monorails. You find that they say they've commissioned roads. There are no roads at all. What they have commissioned are 3D images of the roads they intend to build. So my point is that you can't hold General Buhari responsible for these failures. You will have to hold the local administration, beginning with the state governors, responsible for that. So I'm very grateful that you asked this question about empiricism. It is high time, in fact, we talked about practical results in the changes in the material conditions of the people. What we are seeing is governance by fiction. You see, the governors basically tell you that this is what we intend to do in the year 2000. We are going to provide water, and we've not had water for 15 years, since 2000. So the point, therefore, that people should be looking for is not so much whether someone has been voted at the central level. It's not so much what psychologists call the domino effect. What they should be asking is, over the past 4 or 8 years, have we had water to drink? Water is a fundamental right in South Africa. It's enshrined in the Constitution as a right. So do we have water to drink? In most cases, the people have no water to drink. Do we have education? Okay, if we have education, are the governor's own children in this educational system? In most cases, no. Do we have proper markets? Do we have proper, do we have proper accountability in governance? These issues have nothing to do with the federal government, I must repeat. These are local issues, and the people must vote not according to who is now president or who is president-elect, but whether the governors are actually delivering. And if they are not, elections must have consequences.
All right, we'll pick up from there when we return from the break. Don't go away.